Well, hello, SDCLC. It's Pastor Gabby here, and I miss seeing you guys so much. It's been such an honor to be able to see that you guys are still being able to do class online. I know that it's been a little bit hard with COVID-19, but again, thank you so much for being faithful and finishing this semester strong. Props to Pastor Julia for making sure that you have your lessons filmed and ready to go. And just so thankful that I get to teach you guys tonight. I'm teaching you in the leadership class, and we're on lesson 21, the competencies of a leader. So talking about being a competent leader. Let me pray, and then we'll just get right into it. Lord, I thank you right now for every SDCLC student that's watching this lesson. Thank you for their heart for this program. Thank you for their faithfulness to finish strong. Thank you that they're watching these lessons online, doing their homework, writing their papers, just doing their best to really finish the commitment they made to this program. And though we have to do classes differently, I thank you that we still have these classes available. And thank you for Pastor Jerry and Tammy, Pastor Julia, who just care so much about this program and these students. And Lord, when we're back in the building and SDCLC is back to normal, we really believe that through this season we've grown in our leadership. In Jesus' name, amen. Well, lesson 21, the competencies of a leader. I'm going to read this quote. A Christian leader is someone who is called by God to lead, leads with and through Christ-like character, and demonstrates the functional competencies that permit effective leadership to take place. You know, when I came to this church nearly 20 years ago, I remember thinking, man, when I was in high school and even when I was a little girl, I always would feel like I had a calling to lead. And people would even say that you're a leader, you're a natural born leader, you're called to lead. And I would get into situations where I would kind of end up leading. But I didn't really have anyone teaching me what it was really like to lead and how to lead well and how to be a competent leader. And I learned that here at City Church. I learned that here through this program. So for those of you who did the program, it's probably because you feel called to lead. And maybe you don't feel called to lead necessarily as a pastor or as a worker in the church, but maybe you feel called to lead in your workplace and called to lead in your family. And I really believe that the things we're going to learn tonight are going to help you be a great leader in your life, your community, and even in ministry as we go forward. So numeral one, what is meant by the term competencies when applied to leadership? In previous lessons, we talked about character. We looked at a leader's character as it relates, the personal life, the social life, the domestic life, spiritual life. But in this lesson, we're going to talk more about skills and abilities. Skills and abilities that a person has to have or a person needs to learn to be a good leader. When George Barna answers the question in his book, Leaders on Leadership, what makes a leader? He identified three main qualities. Can you put up three? Say three main qualities. Number one, a Christian leader is called by God. You really have to be called to be a Christian leader. A Christian leader is a person of Christ-like character. Say, be like Jesus. Okay. And a Christian leader possesses functional competencies that allow him to perform tasks that guide people towards accomplishing the ends of God's servants. He goes on to talk about these three qualities that make it possible for leaders to lead. So letter A, the word competence is really a foundation of the word, obviously, competency. It means ability. Competence is the ability to do something well, measured against a standard, especially the ability acquired through experience or training. So we really want you guys to be a competent leader because you trained how to be a leader. The word competence has several synonyms, meaning words that are very similar: skill, talent, capacity, expertise, proficiency, capability, fitness, or qualification. The word competency refers to the abilities required for a certain task or role. Competency is the cluster of related abilities, commitments, knowledges, and skills that enable a person in a job or situation. Like every single one of you has gotten a job, right? And they're like, what are your skills? Oh, like when you make a resume, it's basically how competent are you at this certain job? So that's what competency is. C, the concept of competencies is applied to the area of leadership. So depending on what area you're going to lead in, you have to have different skills. You need different skills to work with children, right? Then you need to lead in worship. Then you need to lead with media or tech. Then you need to lead with people, right? So every area of ministry is going to take a different set of skills. The fact is, you can be called by God, you can manifest great Christ-like character, and you can have your family in good order, but if you don't really have the skill or ability or certain leadership, competency, then your leadership can kind of fail to bring desired results. So we fully understand, number one, we fully understand and embrace the concept of competency in the natural realm, right? No one wants to take your car to a mechanic who cannot fix a car, right? Can I get an amen? No one would allow an incompetent surgeon to cut in your body, okay? I have a friend that just had a family member had surgery. Thank God the surgeon knew what they were doing and the surgery went well. C, no one wants a plumber or electrician coming over who doesn't have competency, right, and skill. Have you ever watched the show Nailed It? It's like a baking show, and they bring out these amateur bakers, right, to make these beautiful baking creations. I'm like, these are not amateur bakers. These are bad bakers, y'all. They can't even, the guy, it's at 1 teaspoon of almond extract. He done put half the bottle in there. These judges couldn't even eat the food that they baked because they were that bad. So nobody wants a baker that can't bake. Come on, okay? If you're a good baker, raise your hand. Thumbs up. If you're a bad baker, thumbs down. Just for fun, like we're together. Okay. 2, we must also embrace the concept of competencies in the area of spiritual maturity and spiritual ministry. So if God has called us to be a leader, we've got to have the ability to really lead people well. So Roman numeral 2, what are the primary skills and abilities that are essential for every leader? So we've got to have certain abilities, right, that make us able to lead. So A, effective leaders are able to identify, articulate, and cast godly vision. This is something that Pastor Jerry and Tammy do so well. We know, right? Our vision, it's on the wall over here. Follow Jesus, right? Build a great church. Love people, right? We know that their vision, can you hear me? Can you see me? Their vision is to follow Jesus and to build a great church and to love people and really to love life. And that's because they've been able to take the vision and the mission of this church and communicate it so well to us that we know what it is. B, effective leaders are able to motivate and inspire their self and their others. When in a situation, in a time when COVID's happening, we're not meeting in this building. We're not having church services as normal. Has that stopped Pastor Jerry and Tammy from preaching? Has that stopped us from, finding a way to do worship? Has that stopped us from gathering testimonies of life change? Has that stopped Pastor Jerry from communicating the best he can via emails and even funny videos on his Instagram? No, because he knows how to motivate himself to keep going even when things are hard. And I really believe he's able to motivate all of us, our care pastors, our team, you, to keep going. We're so proud of you for continuing to take SCCLC. 3, this means effective leaders can inspire others to move forward. 4, this means that effective leaders are able to persuade people. I like to say that I have a little bit of a power of persuasion. Some of my friends were like, Gabby, if you call them, they're going to serve with you. Not because I'm necessarily pushy, even though sometimes I can be a little bit, intense. That's okay. But I think I have a gift of persuasion that sometimes I'm like, hey, it's just more that you see a gift in people and you're able to persuade them to use that gift for Jesus. That's what effective leaders do. They find people in the church and they find people that they love and they find people that they believe in, and they can persuade them to go forward and to do things great for Jesus. And that's what they do. They motivate by persuasion. They have a success in getting people's heart and passion into what they do. 5, effective leaders must also be able to keep themselves inspired. They can't expect inspiration to come from those under them if they don't stay inspired. And again, I think Pastor Jerry and Tammy are so good at this. They are inspired and they inspire us. C, effective leaders are able to initiate and maintain strategic action. So in other words, if you're going to be an effective leader, you've got to be able to get focus and move forward. So once the vision and mission are established, right? Follow Jesus, build a great church, love people. We got to keep that mission going, right? So there's times in our church, right, where we really focus on devotional life, right? Pastor Jerry preaches about prayer. He preaches about Bible reading. He talks about worship because he's trying to get us to keep following Jesus, right? And then there's seasons in our church where Pastor Jerry leads us into building a great church, like serving and giving and, being faithful, because a great church is built on the backs of great leaders. And then there's times where he talks a lot about small groups, and he talks a lot about how we can love each other. Not only as a great leader do you have to come up with a mission and a vision from God, but you have to find ways throughout the year to keep that vision and that mission moving. Poor leadership, and this is really good to know, is demonstrated by allowing any circumstance like COVID or anything else and other things and other needs to stop the vision, to stop the mission. That's not good leaders. But you guys are effective leaders because you're led by effective leaders. Effective leaders, effective leaders are able to communicate effectively. This is a big deal. You have to have good oral communication, right? In 1 Corinthians 14:8 talks about the trumpet. You want to make a good sound, right? Like, hey, everybody, we're all going to go do this together. Hey, everyone, we're going to be online as community cultivators, chatting on the services and helping people, as they're coming online and chatting with them and praying for them, right? The sound is clear. The trumpet is clear. You have to be able to be communicating, orally really good and really communicating what you really want of a message. And even communicators that actually preach and teach, like Pastor Jerry and Tammy and Julia and Pastor Carl and all the pastors in our church, Gabe and Nick and all of us, for me, before I speak anything to anyone, I literally rehearse it like several times in a mirror, because I'm just trying to make sure that did what I say just make sense, right? And many of us that are pastors, when we preach, we always run it by our spouses, first. 2, effective leaders focus on clear written communication, especially right now with COVID. You guys, you should see how many Google Docs are going out. We have so much to change, and we have to keep on communicating and keep on writing down what we want to say, script writing and everything. It's important to stay clear and concise and organized if you're going to have good, clear written communication. Effective leaders do that. Effective leaders are able to manage change. Now, we're in one of the greatest changes of our decade, of our century. Honestly, we haven't had something like this come through since probably the Spanish flu and this pandemic and closing down, churches and businesses and staying at home. There's a lot of change. The church has changed. The church is virtual. The church is online. And so we've had to be adaptive. Effective leaders can deal with change and manage it. Hey, if something changes, I can change with it. Our roles at City Church right now, our staff roles, they've all changed. Most of us now are helping put together the online experience. Some of us didn't know how to do a website or film or edit, but we all learned because we've had to be good leaders and deal with change. So effective leaders can manage change. Effective leaders are able to treat others with dignity and respect. This is something that's very, very important to do as a leader. To treat people with respect, to talk to them kindly, even when you're having to challenge someone or correct someone. That's what I love about Jerry and Tammy. In the 20 years I've been at this church, I can't count actually on my hands how many times they've had to have a hard conversation with me. But they've always treated me with such dignity, such respect, talked to me, with respect and understood that I might have been going through a hard time or asked me if I was doing okay. Even though it may have been a hard conversation, they've always treated me with dignity and respect. And that's what an effective leader does. Effective leaders are able to be adaptable. This means that effective leaders are not stubborn. They're not inflexible. They're not like, no, I don't want to do that because I said and I felt and my opinion is. At the end of the day, this is not right. Like as a leader, I had to come to terms of 20 years of being in this church, and I've been on staff for almost 15 years. I've had to realize, you know what? This is the house of God. This is the vision of Jerry and Tammy that they got from God. I'm going to be flexible. Maybe my job changes every couple of years. Cool. I do it for Jesus anyway, right? And so effective leaders are able to be adaptable. They're able to process new information and make the changes that are suggested with that information. It means that you're resourceful, that you can face a changing condition and an unexpected obstacle, and you can say, you know what? I used to like to have conversations in person, and now we have them on Zoom. I prefer that we could go on a long walk or have a coffee. We can't do that anymore, but I'm willing to be adaptable and to be changeable. I'm willing to still follow your vision, Pastor Jerry and Tammy. I'm willing to still lead in whatever area you ask me to lead, whether that's youth or worship or communication or marketing. And even though we may not have as much time as we used to have, I'm willing to be adaptable and make the changes necessary to stay being a good leader. And that's, I know, what you guys will do and have been doing. Most of you right now are still leading. I want to give a shout out right now even to Menza, who's been spending hours a week helping host the City Church feed. I know Taylor and Camille, Owen and Noel, many of you, Cassidy, some of you that are watching this right now, Tony. I know many of you have been asking, how can I help? How can I still serve from home? People like Annie and Steven. I know James is serving in ways that he can. Many of you, and if I haven't mentioned your name, please forgive me. I may not work directly with you, but you know who you are. You've stayed faithful. You've been asking Pastor Julia, how can I help? Maybe one of you could help with the SDCLC social media feed. I don't know, but thank you so much for saying, maybe I'm not there, but I can still give an hour a day to serve the ministry I was serving with before, and I can continue to be an effective leader. Thank you for leading from home. H, effective leaders are able to give and receive both positive and negative feedback. I know it's hard. You don't always want to tell someone some feedback that's not really good. But if you're an effective leader, you've got to be able to do that. You've got to be able to say, wow, you're doing a great job with this, but you need a little bit of help in this area. And it's good to do that. It's good to do that as a leader. Number one, you be effective by, you'll be effective by